In this evaluation question, I'm going to be talking about what I feel I've learnt and progressed from doing my preliminary task to my full product. We firstly had to get into groups and complete a short film just over a minute in length. We also had to come up with our short story and consider what camera movements we were going to use and also what camera shots we were going to take. We also had to include 4 to 6 lines of dialogue. In my preliminary task, our short film was just basically about a man who went to a job interview and had got the job. So the shot we first began with was a close-up shot facing slightly downwards on this man who was waiting to be called into another room for a job interview. It was just a still shot and had no movement involved in it, which I'll show you now. So as you can see, there's no movement in that shot, it's just a still shot. Now, there was no establishing shots to set the scene location, but however, in our real product, we included an establishing shot which set the scene for our opening of our actual real product. This shot was done by using a crane, which is advanced equipment and is rather difficult to assemble and make an effective shot. Now, I'll show you an example of that in which we did. Now that's the crane shot to set the scene for our actual real media product. Now as you can see, it's so much different from our preliminary task because we've improved so much because we are now using high advanced filming equipment which for our real media products in which we didn't use for our preliminary task. So it just shows how much I have learned, like how much I've progressed as well. We managed to film a very effective shot with this using a crane. This shows, like I said before, that we've improved a lot. Now, going back to preliminary task, the next shot in our preliminary task involved a panning shot to show the receptionist. As you can see, this shot panned upwards to show him. This shot was okay, it was quite a smooth shot, but the issue with this shot though is as the shot was panning upwards, it slightly moved out of place, causing the shot to not be smooth as we wanted it to be. In our real media product, we did a smooth shot which was better than the one from our preliminary task. I'll show you an example of a shot we did in our actual real media product, which is real smooth and really well done. So we'll just go to our, that's it, so is it now, look. So it's the same shot, it's still a panning shot. So as you can see, it is so much smoother. And that just goes to show how much I've learned and how much I've progressed, because we can now make smoother shots now, and that's a good technique to have in our real media product. Now, going back to this shot that we did in our real media product. It shows a man walking on the right side of the road on the path. This was a dolly shot, and even so this is an example of a panning shot in which we did, but however we also did a dolly shot as well. It's not here. We did a dolly shot which is coming up now. Now this is a dolly shot we did, and as you can see, and this one as well, it is so much smoother than the one from our preliminary task. This shows how much I've improved and how much I've progressed. It shows the man walking on the right side of the path. And it's better. This shot was much better done than in our preliminary task because on that shot I just showed you then, we used high advanced filming equipment such as the tracking the dolly. This tracking allowed us to move the tripod, which had the camera on steadily, so it was easy for us to film a very smooth shot without it wobbling. So this is another example of my skills progressing and improving from the preliminary task all the way to completing our real media product. Now, another example of my progress improving is how we managed to use reflecting equipment. Now, we didn't use any of this for our preliminary task because we did not know how to use it, but we've learned how to do it in between doing our preliminary task and the actual real media product. We used a reflector in our film at this part. So as you can see, this is where we used the light reflector, and as you can see, the light levels are very good, so you're able to see the person, you can see his face, you can see all the light cast on his face, you can see the background, the locations in the kitchen. So yeah, that was good. That was good equipment that we've managed to learn how to use. Yeah, the first time we filmed this scene was without the light reflector, but like, obviously, as you can see, the second time now, it is so much better now. I thought our preliminary task at the time we did it was rather good. So as soon as we filmed our preliminary task, I thought it was very good, but now I think it's not as good as I used to think it was. Now, obviously, this is because we've been using so much high advanced filming equipment that we've improved so much. So, obviously, now I don't think it is as good as I used to think it was. And obviously, I think our real media product is so much better than our preliminary tasks that we did. In the ending of our film, we had a really effective cliffhanger, which is used to leave the audience wondering what's going to happen next. This was a really good aspect in which we had in our real product, but however, we did not have this aspect in our preliminary task. The story in this is, the hacker is running away he's trying to escape from the businessman, and that's what's happening at this point. He's trying to escape from the businessman. But now that's the cliffhanger, because as he's escaping from the businessman, he bumps into the businessman, the hacker does, and that's when the opening of our film ends. And it's such a good technique because it leaves the audience wondering what's going to happen next, and yeah, just wonder what's going to happen next. During the process of planning our film, we had to plan pre-production, which is planning dates to film with our crew and actors. We also had to plan the basic information behind our film, so we had to consider script, storyboards, film pitch, creating our animatics, target audience our film would be aimed at. Now, we even had to create a shooting schedule, in which I'll show you now. Now, this is part of the shooting schedule. Hang on, let me just... So yeah, this is part of our shooting schedule which we had to complete. Now, as you can see, we've had to plan a diary of literally when we're gonna film, what we're gonna film, what shots we're gonna film, who's needed for what day, what time's gonna film it, etc. So for example, here you can see, for example, on the 8th of February 2014, the time of shooting was at 12 o'clock PM. The location was at Jack's house, Shores Lane, Saxon Close. That's the address of his house. Filming equipment used, that we needed to use, was a camera, a tripod, 3 movable tracking dolly, and a Steadicam. The props we needed was a phone, and the people we needed present during filming was, as you can see there, Josh Bowater, and the crew, us obviously being Jack, Sam, Charlotte and me, Tom. Now that's just an idea of what we had to do. We had to arrange with each other what times we could shoot and what we had to shoot. And now we even had to consider the frame, shot numbers filmed. So for example, on the one I just said we was planning to use film frame shots 15 to 24 and 27 to 28 and 36. So that's just an example of a shooting schedule which we had to complete. What else? Storyboards. Now, this is our animatic in which we had to do, which I'll show you now. Basically what it is it's just a storyboard, so we've had to draw a storyboard of the frames, different frames, and say what's going on in it. We had to do this in a piece of paper, and then we had to use some kind of software to like add sound effects to it, and yeah, and just like to make it really effective in that. I'll show you a bit of the animatic in which we completed.
Okay, let's see what I've got myself into. Get the evidence and destroy it. If it causes you any problems, you know what to do. No mistakes this time, or be your head on the line.
So obviously, as you can tell, we've drawn in the locations, we've drawn in the props we needed, just basically matching up our story and the key frames which we needed. So that was our animatic in which we had to do. Yeah, target audience which we had to come up with. Yeah, hang on. Yeah, we had to do research on target audience and different BBFC classifications and all that. But yeah, our target audience is 16 to 24-year-olds, as it says here. And I've written a little bit about the target audience in which we as a group had to come up with. We come up with the target audience 16 to 21-year-olds as we feel the film Hacked and our story involved in it represents an audience of age from 16 to 21-year-olds, and also the gender target is predominantly male, and the ethnicity would be white British as well. During the shooting process, we have worked very well as a team, and I felt I've worked quite well as a member of the group as well. I feel I put lots of ideas through and really contributed a lot. All the different types of filming and shots we had done required more than one person for assistance, and this is where our teamwork came in, which was very good. A main example of us having to work really well as a team was when we did the crane shot, in which it required at least 4 of us to assemble it. When we were checking shots on it, we had to keep hold of the crane, so it involved having to communicate with each other, which I felt we did really well. So an example of that with a crane. So literally as we were assembling the crane, it required 4 people, so 4 of us crew members, to assemble it and to be able to hold it. Yeah, and that's how we communicated well with each other. The editing process, we also worked as a team in really effectively and really well, and I think we handled it very well, as we all communicated very well with each other and worked very well and professionally with each other. Now, for the editing stage as well, we had to use the softwares Soundtrack Pro and Final Cut, which I'll show you now in my blog. Basically, Soundtrack Pro is software in which you create a soundtrack to your film where you have all the sound in the background. Right, so yeah. Yeah, so in my editing post, in which I posted, here we've got a little print screen here. As you can see here, now that's a print screen of us working in Final Cut, in which we worked really well with each other to put all the clips together and to like edit it all, which we did all very well. So that's like a screen, a print screen of us working on it. So as you can see, the clips at the bottom here and all the windows at here, and there's all the clips that we filmed. Yep, and that's that. That's the Final Cut, and I think we did really well on that. And now Soundtrack Pro is where we had to make our soundtracking, in which it lasted throughout the whole of the opening of the film. Now, as you can see here, we've had to edit it, so like that line there, that like causes different levels of volume, and we had to like edit all that, in which we did really well, and therefore in the end we created a very, very good, effective soundtrack in the background. During the post-production process, we also had to exhibit our film once to our target audience, in which I think we did really well. You know, I've made so much improvement since the preliminary tasks that we did. We've able to do so much more stuff on these editing softwares, Soundtrack Pro and Final Cut. We even, with this film as well, this Real Media product, we had to do a film pitch to the rest of the class, our media class. Our film pitch is basically what our film was about, so we had to say what it was about and when we planned to do, what time we planned to film things, film shots and all that, what weather we was hoping to have, and we had to basically like present that to the class, and we had to answer some questions. So I'll show you an example of that. Now this is our film pitch, which we had to do.
Okay, I'm Charlotte.
I'm Sam. I'm Jack. I'm Tom.
We are Limelight Productions. Okay, so our movie's called Hacked, and Tom and Jack will tell you our protagonist and antagonist are.
Our protagonist is a straight, smart chap looking 20-year-old male who is a computer hacker.
The premise of this was, in other thrillers that feature a computer hacker that only...
So as you could see in this film pitch, we've had to talk about conventions and how it differs from other films in which these conventions are similar and involved in as well. We've had to say what our production name is, which is Limelight, and had to say the title of our film
as the geeky, nerdy of the film.
So basically throughout the whole pitch we're just talking about the story of our film and the rest of the information.
This time we're talking like a genius. We don't really know what's happening. We're kind of confused, like, but we're curious more than anything. Like, oh, what information has he got? What has he got to do with this smart man in the suit? Why does he want to kill him? Why is he throwing his laptop away? It makes you question a lot of things, and then later on in the movie, it all becomes apparent.
Questions?
Yeah, any questions?
So this is where we had to ask the rest of the class if they had any questions, and we basically had to answer them. So it's just a short. So that's just us answering questions. And
Yeah. Have you got any ideas as to whereabouts you're gonna set your film?
Yeah, well.
so that, for example, someone asked where we're going to set our film. We had to answer to
was
that.
ideal for,
So that's just an example of the film. picture, which we did. Yeah, and that's it. And that's how I've progressed from doing the preliminary task to doing the real media product. So overall, I've improved a lot because I've learned so much new things about filming, such as using a crane shot and involving establishing shot, using dolly equipment, tracking dolly, panning shots, making more smoother shots, like I said earlier, from my preliminary task. We've had to do so much stuff, pre-production stuff, pro-production stuff, more editing processes, more planning. So obviously we've planned ages for this. We've shot it, which took us about a month, and we've created a very effective and great film, which is called Hacked. Yeah, and I think, yeah, overall I've improved very much.